Hello everyone, you're watching Altek2k Gaming. Does it take you 10 hours or longer to get to maps? In this video, I'll show you the tips I've picked up over the years in order to do it in around 6. I hope you find this useful. Let's get down to it. The start of the game is all important. The first thing you want to do when you get into Act 1 is move to start standing up. At this point, you immediately switch off the tutorial, assign an alternative movement key. We then run over to the first guy, kill him, get his skill gem, and then immediately switch out our left mouse button to be move instead of move and attack. This will save us many deaths later when we get stuck on packs. Now, providing you're not playing with mines, traps or totems, which class is taking the kill from you, you should be using Onslaught. This gives you a chance to increase your movement speed substantially on killing an enemy. It also improves attack and cast speed, making you faster at killing things. Whenever you go back to town, which you should do sparingly, you don't want to go back too often because every time you go back to town, you start doing something, it slows you down massively. But do check your vendors for any new weapons that may help you, especially if you're melee where your damage scales off your weapons. Check for movement boots in Act 1, this is by typing in NN for runner, and then for the links that you want. Now I would suggest that when you're getting your links, don't get them in your weapon and your boots unless you absolutely have to. And that's because these are the two items you'll switch out most. Your boots because whenever you get a movement speed increase you want to pick those up, and your weapon because you want to be upgrading those all the time. The other thing you want to keep an eye out for is when you're able to do a vendor recipe. Doing vendor recipes will massively increase the damage of your weapon, and for wands, this can turn a beginner wand into one that can take you all the way to maps. Now, one of the biggest things that's going to help you get through the acts quickly is to be strategic about what you kill. We want to kill all blues that are in our path, we want to kill all massive packs that are going to give us a lot of XP, or we want to kill large packs that are very dangerous and are going to kill us if they trap us, which is the biggest cause of my death early game. Everything else, just leave it alone. You'd have to kill it, run through the area without killing them. This will save you so much time. Avoid rares unless you've got a build that can really hammer them. Because again, they give you a lot of XP, but they take an awful long time to kill, and killing a pack of blues is far more worth it. Now the other thing that I go for are essences and Dynar mobs if I can do them quickly. Now I only go for these on sort of a league start where I don't have leveling gear. And that's because the Dynar mobs give you an ability to roll uniques, and also the essences you can put on your early game gear to turn them into rares and be much more powerful. It can give you a real boost at the beginning of the game. The other thing you want to be doing is constantly upgrading your flasks. Not upgrading your flasks will be a massive cause of you dying early on. And remember, you don't have to buy these. If you can't pick them up, you can use a vendor recipe. 3 of the same kind will roll into the next level flask. This goes for both your life and your mana flasks. Running out of mana in a fight, you're either going to have to pour out or you're going to die. On to movement skills. I cannot stress enough how important movement skills are. While leveling, if you're going to pick a movement skill that cannot jump over ledges, then use a second movement skill just to get over those ledges. It really is that important. Do not be the person in my guild who doesn't get a movement skill until they're actually in maps. That's just insanity. They are so important. You can get them as early as level 4, and then you get another one at level 10. Now also note, if your character does not get one as a reward from level 4, you can normally buy one from Nessa. The level 4 variants are Dash and Frostblink, and there's a whole myriad of them once you get to level 10. Now what about use of portals? I only use them in very special scenarios. Most of the time I will log out and back in. There's some bonuses to logging out and in. The first one is it puts you in the centre of town instead of on the outskirts of town. This makes it much quicker to get to your vendors. The second one is portal scrolls are incredibly rare early on, so you want to keep them just for the most important parts. One of the areas I'll use these in is the area just before the flooded depths, just to get back there quickly. And there are various other strategic places you'll put a portal. Basically a portal is where you need to come back to an area efficiently. But you can't use that portal or another portal or it will wipe it out. You've got to use a waypoint. Now there is a piece of gear I don't tend to get while leveling, and that is a chest piece. There is an exception, and that's if I go duelist. The chest piece has a hidden modifier which slows down your movement speed, which is really bad early game when you really want to be running. Now if you're a duelist, right under where you start there is a notable called Art the Gladiator. This gives you a buff of ignore all movement penalties from armor, which means this doesn't apply to you. But any other character, I tend to wait till Act 3 or Act 4 until I can get my 4 link before I equip a chest. And that includes tabbies, by the way. I only put on a tabby once I need to, not right at the start of the game. Now the other thing you want early game is Quicksilver flasks. There are 2 quests at the beginning of the game. One is in Act 1 off this side area here, and the other is in Act 2 in the den underneath the fields. You want to remember where these are and go and get these flasks if you haven't got them already. Now the one from the den can be worth getting regardless because it's a blue one, which means it can have a chance to give you adrenaline when you roll it, which will give you a super fast movement speed flask straight off the bat, which is incredibly valuable. Chance of getting it's low, but you can still do it. Now the other thing to know about the axe is they have some tells which tell you which direction you want to go in. For instance, on the ledge, the waypoint has 3 little stones on one side of it. This tells you the way to the exit rather than the entrance. The rowers in the Break Some Eggs quest, all of the rower nests are connected by dry rivers in a triangle. So understanding those and learning those will help you get through the axe quicker. Now I do have a playlist that will go through a lot of the axe. It will tell you which areas are fixed, i.e. they're always the same regardless of when you play them, and which are random, but it will also show you some of the tells. I'll link the playlist at the end of the video in case you want to look through those. 2 things which are extraordinarily important are the 2 Ps, preparation and practice. Preparation, use something like Poe Roadmap on your build to tell you what gems you need. Or, if you're following a build guide, some of the content creators will put the instructions for which gems and where to get them in the notes section. Check these out. If you don't get this, then you can go and look up on Poe Wiki where the gems can be bought from and then go and buy them. This will save you an awful lot of time rummaging around in town for skills because you'll know exactly what you want and where to get them. You can jot this down on a piece of paper or on a notepad on your separate screen or in your path building notes. And for practice, use solo self-found. This will remove the temptation to go and get items, but also if you do a full migrate before you do solo self-found, it will wipe out all of the Trials of Ascendancy and things that you've already picked up, setting it back to as if it was League Start. The other thing with practice is, don't necessarily go straight from Act 1 to Act 10. Once you get to an act that's really slow, I tend to rerun that act over and over again by destroying the character and recreating it. So Act 1, once you get to the end, if you're not at the time you really want to get to, then destroy the character, recreate it, run through Act 1 again. Now this can really be quite tedious, but if you're increasing your time each time, you're achieving something, and it can actually feel really good doing it. Especially if you beat your all-time record. So make a note of each time you run the act, and see where you're quicker or slower, and then work out what was different and how to improve it. Now a lot of it will be RNG. If you don't get the links you want early on, it can slow you down massively. You might want to set up a loot filter early on so that it gives a separate sound or a bigger icon if you drop the links you're after. So for instance, the build that I was practicing yesterday was red, red, green. I put in a loot filter. Didn't actually drop one, but it will help you identify them much more quickly and you might not run past one that could have sped you up an awful lot. Now the other thing is, when you're fighting bosses, your resistances may not be good early game. What you can do is learn what the bosses actually use against you and then just resist for those before the fight. So, for instance, for Merthael, she does a lot of cold damage. If you can pick up 2 cold resistance rings running through the axe, then swap those in just before you fight her and it will make the fight so much easier. You won't die, you won't have to port out, and it will save you a lot of time. When following someone else's guide, if they don't give you leveling steps, it may not be the best idea to jump straight into the skill that you're going to use all the way through. Sometimes those skills can be slower than other skills, so it may be better while you're practicing to just work out exactly what works the quickest, and use that instead until you switch over later once that skill picks up power. When following a guide, don't necessarily stick to it gospel. Don't say, it needs a unique chess piece, so I'm not going to buy any of the chess piece on the way to maps. This would be a big mistake. You really want to keep things up to date, even if that means spending a little currency now, before you get your unique items later. Now the other thing I can't stress enough, make sure that you find a balance between getting damage off the tree and life off the tree. If you don't, you're going to die more often, it's going to take you longer. And resistances. Please, please, please make sure you maintain your resistances as you're going through the acts. You don't want to get all the way to Act 5, lose loads of Katava and find you're in the -20s. You're never going to be able to fix that. And it's going to mean that there's a damage multiplier now on your head and you're going to die so often in Act 6. The monsters in Act 6 start to get harder. Not having resists is a really terrible way to level. Now at this point I want to thank you for making it so far into the video. If you have enjoyed it, then please smash that like button. And I've saved my top 3 tips for last. To help you with resistances, you can get a Lyra. I pick her almost every league start. She gives you 15% across the board for resistances and also some mana regen, which is really, really precious. Now you may be thinking to yourself, but a Lyra is really terrible for my endgame. It doesn't matter. When you get to endgame, all you need is a couple of regrets and an amulet. Trade it to a vendor. He'll give you a book which will take off the reward you got from the vendor and replace it with the 2 passive point one. I've got a video on how to do this. I'll link it in the description below. Also, don't underestimate your crafting bench. Use it a lot while leveling. If you're low on resistances or you're low on attributes or something like that, go to your hideout and use some currency on your rare items to get some extra suffixes that will help you out without having to reroll the tree. It can make all the difference for you getting to maps quickly. And this last one is one I picked up recently from Tytykiller. When you're running towards a waypoint, press the U key to open up the little map and then click on the waypoint so that you'll activate it the moment you get to it, and then hover your mouse over where you're going to go on the map, and then the moment you get there and activate, you can just click it to go straight there. Only shaves off a couple of fractions of a second, but it can make all the difference. And that's it. I hope you found this video useful. If you want to see my guide to vendor recipes as you're leveling, check this out here. And if you want to see my guides to the act, then check this out here. Now, if you want to see some of my other guides on game mechanics, check in the description for this video, and I'll list out my favourite 5 guides. I hope this helps you as much as it helped me, and I hope it gives you the information much more quickly than I found it out over the years. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.